There's a line from a classic song by the Talking Heads that says,
Well, how did I get here?
as someone who is in his late 40s, I ask myself that all the time, but I am not the coach of an NFL team. I've gone through and looked at some of the most perplexing, confusing, and outright strange coaching hires of all time. Like, why in the fuck did this team hire this guy? The strangest coaching hires in NFL history is coming up right after this. Thanksgiving is here, and you know what that means. No, not gaining a few extra pounds. Black Friday and Cyber Monday deals from Raycon. Yes, Raycon's already start at half the price as the other guys, and that's even before you factor in their Black Friday and Cyber Monday offer of up to 30% off site-wide. Raycon's everyday earbuds now feature active ergonomic design, and multi-point connectivity allows you to pair two devices at once, like your laptop and your phone. So when you're inside, you don't have to switch between the devices. They also come in a variety of colors and styles. I went with the blue ones, and they're great to use when I am practicing shooting pool. Yes, I like shooting pool now. Check out all these other great features. 32 hours of battery life with a new quick charge function that gets you 90 minutes of battery life in 10 minutes. Active noise cancellation, customized sound profiles, and IP66 weather and sweat resistance. It's time to save big for Black Friday / Cyber Monday. Go to buyraycon.com/5 points today to get up to 30% off site-wide. That's right, you'll get up to 30% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/5 points. Before we get started, I want to make it clear this is not a list of bad hires. That's probably something for another day. In many cases, it made some sense when a coach got hired, like even Ben McAdoo, but these hires were perplexing and bizarre. Let's get into it. Joe Judge, New York Giants. When Joe Judge was hired by the New York Giants in 2020, just like a lot of our behavior at the time, it made no sense, like wearing masks during sex. Fresh off of back-to-back idiot coaches in New Jersey, Ben McAdoo and Pat Shurmur, most Giants fans figured they would go with a veteran head coach or someone with some head coaching experience at some level. After Matt Rule turned down the Giants for a huge bag from the Panthers because they stupidly offered him more money, the Giants announced they would be hiring Joe Judge, a little-known special teams coordinator and wide receiver coach for the Patriots. Sure, Judge was part of 3 Super Bowl winning teams, but to elevate him from special teams coordinator to head coach of the New York Giants just because he sniffed a few of Bill Belichick's farts was wild. Of course, it ended in absolute disaster with his first season going 6-10, and then his second season where he famously called a sneak on 3rd and 9 from his own goal line, prompting fans to call him a bitch out loud. How he got to coach 2 years is beyond me. He was fired after the 2021 season and held a pizza party to celebrate, which is hilarious irony if you've ever worked in corporate America. Judge immediately limped back to the Patriots a la Josh McDaniels as an assistant and is now a senior analyst for Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, where his son is a football commit there. Freddy Kitchens, Cleveland Browns. Now, Freddy Kitchens has a lot of football knowledge in one specific area, coaching tight ends. However, as a head coach, his hire by the Cleveland Browns was the most perplexing one in a list that includes names like Eric Mangina, Rod Chudinsky, Pat Shurmur, and Mike Pettin. Kitchens had been a tight ends coach in the NFL for 12 years when he was elevated to offensive coordinator in 2018. Baker Mayfield's rookie season, where the Browns actually won 7 games, having inexplicably let Hugh Jackson coach 8 games that year. Greg Williams, who went 5-3 that season, was not retained as head coach, and Freddy Kitchens was elevated to head coach. To be fair, there weren't many great candidates in the mix that offseason outside of Matt LaFleur and the iffy Zach Taylor. There was Cliff Kingsbury, Brian Flores, and Vic Fangio, who were fellow rookie targets. And any of them would have been better than Kitchens, who looked clueless most of the time, leading his team to a 6-10 record. And for once, the Browns did the right thing and let him go after just 1 season. Still, it was a strange hire to elevate him so quickly from tight ends coach to OC, then head coach in a year's time, and then having to put him on the couch. Kitchens is currently the tight ends and run game coordinator for the Carolina Tar Heels. Jeff Saturday, Indianapolis Colts. Yes, you probably came here expecting this hire, as it truly was one of the weirdest, dumbest, and insulting things as an NFL team has not only done to its fan base, but also to every NFL fan in the process. The 2022 season was a bizarre one for the Colts, as head coach Frank Reich struggled to start the year at 3-5-1, and he was let go after a period of moderate success, an era that saw his star QB retire right before the 2019 season. Reich was 40-33 and won in 4 years as coach with 2 playoff appearances. However, that didn't save his job, and he was let go halfway through the season. Jeff Saturday, the former All-Pro center, was sitting on his couch tweeting about how bad the Colts were when Jim Irsay called him and asked him if he wanted to be the head coach of the Colts. Yes, an NFL team. Saturday's highest level of coaching was in high school, and he quit doing that 2 years prior. Of course, he won his debut against the pathetic Raiders, who were coached by that dipshit Josh McDaniels. But after that, the tank was on. Saturday would go on to lose his next 7 games and help the Colts secure the 4th overall pick. They even blew a 33-point lead along the way. Again, this move was just insane and reeked of intentional tanking that should have been investigated by the NFL. The team had former head coach Gus Bradley as their defensive coordinator. He could have at least led the team while not having to figure out how his key card worked for the first few weeks. Saturday is currently a sports analyst for ESPN. Jim Zorn, Washington Redacted. Washington fan is still trying to make sense of the Dan Snyder era, and though having Jaden Daniels helps, moves like hiring Jim Zorn back in 2008 are still more perplexing than how the Costco guys got famous. Jim Zorn was a scrappy QB for the Seattle Seahawks back in the day and was a longtime offense and QB coach from 1988 until 2007, spending 6 years with the Hawks. So when there was a vacancy at coach for the Redacteds, who were coming off a playoff appearance, it seemed like the team would find an experienced coach to lead the team. Nope. They perplexingly went with Jim Zorn, who had no head coaching experience and only 2 years of being an OC under his belt, all in college. The hire left a lot of people scratching their temples, as the team had just been led by legendary coach Joe Gibbs, who was sucked out of retirement by a fat paycheck, which he probably used to fund his NASCAR team. Zorn finished 8-8 his first year and then dropped to 4-12 and seemed awkward and dorky throughout his tenure as head coach. He last coached in 2020 in the XFL as the head man for the Seattle Dragons, and they finished 1-4. Jim Tomsula, San Francisco 49ers. This was just another bizarre hire, as the 49ers were reeling from Jim Harbaugh and his khakis fleeing for Michigan in 2015 after appearing in 3 of the last 4 NFC Championship games and had a Super Bowl appearance. What's insane is Jim Tomsula was the last head coach as an interim before Jim, and then was hired to fill the void. That 1 game of experience must have left a lasting impression, because he had only been a head coach in the European League prior and was the defensive line coach for the Niners at the time he was hired. So many jokes were told about his appearance when he took over, and he looked so out of place on the sideline. Here are a few jokes. Jim Tomsula is currently thinking about the barbecue later. Jim Tomsula is the Miller High Life of Champagne. Jim Tomsula took Cap out to dinner, just you and me, buddy, and then went to Safeway and ate soup. Jim Tomsula's ideal vacation is a trip to the water park. Jim Tomsula's wife knows to always pick up extra sausages from the store. Jim Tomsula's favorite movie is Weekend at Bernie's. Jim Tomsula sleeps with a pillow under his gun. The team finished 5-11. He was fired, and they followed him up with Chip fucking Kelly. And finally, the strangest hire in NFL history, Mark Trestman, Chicago Bears. Things might be confusing now in America, with Matt Eberflus finding amazing ways to lose game, but no period was more bizarre than from 2013 to 2014, when the Bears thought it was wise to poach a head coach from another country. Mark Trestman did have extensive NFL experience as an OC and QB coach for multiple teams like the Bucks, Browns, 49ers, Cardinals, and Raiders. But prior to being named the head man for the Bears, he was the head coach for the Montreal Alouettes in the CFL. In case you're wondering, an Alouette is a bird. If you have ever watched the CFL, it looks like American football, but it is not American football. Wideouts get head starts on routes, and the players apologize to each other after big hits. So Trestman was hired after Lovie Smith went 10-6 in one of the dumbest firings and then subsequent hirings I've ever seen. Trestman went 8-8 his first year and then 5-11, but with the Canadian exchange rate, that's probably 9-7 and 6-10 or something. Trestman isn't Canadian, by the way. He's from Minnesota. He was then fired and replaced by John Fox. Trestman would return to the CFL to coach in 2017 for the Toronto Argonauts, the XFL in 2020 for the Tampa Bay Vipers, and is now a consultant for the Los Angeles Chargers. He also had a brief stint as the Ravens OC in 2015. I mean, the dude probably knows football. Just him being brought in from Canada made no sense, like importing ketchup chips. Y'all can keep those. Seriously.